All right, gearheads, we just watched another horribly boring Russian Grand Prix at
Oh, come
Sochi. No,
on.
not really. It was a fantastic race, start to finish.
I was going to ask if we can smoke in the studio. Woo.
This on Massengill, that was Les Kaiser, and Bob Varsha has joined us. Bob, what do you think about the Russian Grand Prix this year?
Oh, man, I thought it was outstanding. We've seen so many great races this year. People really do need to give Formula One a look if they haven't already. I mean, that was just outstanding today. And you got to feel for Fernando Norris, who led so dominantly, and he has nobody to blame but himself and his team that it all came apart. I mean, we heard it from the announcers. You heard it in the post-race interviews. Mercedes told Hamilton, we're looking at the radar. It's going to get worse. Pit. And he did. And he wins the race. Lando Norris, the team says, what do you think about going to intermediates? He said, no, I'm fine, which of course he absolutely was not. Flies off the road. It's just, I couldn't believe it. I was beating on the table. I mean, why don't leave the decision up to the driver? He can't see the radar.
Exactly.
But be that as it may, Lewis gets his 100th victory. Verstappen comes from the back to finish second, which keeps the title fight close. And Carlos Sainz, who led his first laps as a Ferrari driver, may not feel that he got everything out of this race that he could, but a podium finish in third is terrific. And there was action all throughout the race, lots of strategy calls that had to be made on the fly, none more important than when that rain finally came.
Absolutely right. There was start to finish strategy going on, pit stops. It was really, was on the edge of my seat most of this race. And we kept hearing a little chance of rain here and there. And then it hit with 5 laps to go. And of course, it hit right when Hamilton was catching Norris, right with 5 laps to go. The timing couldn't have been perfect. And Bob, I think that you're right that it was not the right call, but don't you think that had they both pitted that Norris probably would have won the race?
Well, yeah, and if he did, it would be fortunate because I think Hamilton was going to catch him if it stayed dry. And even though I picked a Hamilton Norris 1-2, it's not over till it's over, and the rain really threw a wrench in there. And when Norris didn't pit for the rain tires when he needed him, he sealed his own fate. He did pick up the point for fast lap, but as we all saw, he also violated the pit entry line rule. So what penalty might come from that, I don't know, but he may drop out of the top 10 and thereby lose that point for fast lap, but we'll just have to wait and see what the stewards decide. But just a great race all around. It's so much fun to watch, which frankly, we weren't expecting, were we, from Russia?
Yeah.
Everybody got through the first corner. Incredible start. Remember, Carlos Sainz said, I got to do my homework. I'm on the dirty line. I got to figure out how to start this race. Boy, give him an A+ on the homework assignment because he just rocketed to the front and opened a big gap on everybody. Lewis boxed himself in. I thought his race might be over right there. Norris, from pole position, went into the second position. And, it's just so exciting there as guys jousted, giving us very little clue about what was going to happen when the race finally ended. So, I'm still kind of bouncing my knees here. I was so excited by that race.
Definitely a 52 card pickup. And you're right. With Lando's, situation, I'm going to say that's the team's fault. They've got the data. They've got the weather radar.
Oh, absolutely.
They've got all that. What's around the next corner is more in their hands to view than Lando's. And
Absolutely.
so
Could they have been
chin up,
thinking?
Lando.
Could they have been thinking about qualifying when Lando made the right decision to say over the radio, "I'm coming in for slicks"? So the opposite situation. So I don't know, but you're both absolutely right. The team has the visibility during the race.
Okay,
They should have made the call.
But that's opposite. So you're coming in for slicks. Well, rain tires still work on dry land. And so, it's converse of that situation in my eyes is that you can still run rain tires on dry land, just not for long. But whereas slicks on water never work.
Yeah,
exactly.
as we saw. Yeah, in fact, I was watching the times right when they did this when Hamilton pitted, and it was 19 seconds, and it was 15 seconds, and it was 4 seconds, and then we were done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. We talked about that before the race, about that crossover point. If the rain had stayed light only on part of the racetrack, I think Lando had a real shot at winning the race.
yeah,
But it came down so heavily that that the choice not to go to intermediate tires just sealed his fate. And it was exciting to see the teams and the different ways they approach that. Surprised, too, by the problems everybody seemed to be having on their pit stops with the new regulations to slow them down a little bit, but nothing like what we saw during that race, particularly bad stops for Perez. And I think Ricardo had a slowish one. The teams have got some work to do down the stretch.
Perez with an 8.5 second, pit stop was just absurd. This is Red Bull. These are the people we saw nailing 2-point second,
1 point something,
even at 1 point a few times. There's something going on in that. There's got to be, there's going to be. I'd say the team's going to be running laps on the bleachers if the coach has anything to say.
Well, they've got these new rules. They've got buttons on the guns. And you can't release the car till every tire change, or every man with the air gun throws the switch that says, "I'm done, the wheel is on." And I think teams are having trouble with that. And then there's the usual stuff like not being able to get the old tire off and all that kind of thing. But yeah, that's pit work is going to be a factor going forward the rest of the way.
The coverage was frustrating to me a bunch because they weren't showing the pit stop times. I don't know if they were having a technical issue.
Yes.
Mr. Data.
But I can count them off pretty good in my head, but I kept going, that was about a 3 second. That was about a 3 second. And then that slow one, I said that was like 9. We didn't get one until I think I know when Ricardo stopped, I counted in my head on 8 seconds as well. So Red Bull had 2 bad pit stops.
Yeah, which is so unlike them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, it was really fun to watch. And Norris did look great. At the beginning of the race, like you said, Bob, Carlos Sainz rocketed past him. And I thought when Carlos Sainz took the lead and he had so much better speed than Norris, and I thought, well, is that straight line speed? Is this the new Ferrari power unit that we're seeing? And I thought Carlos
Sainz doesn't have it.
Well, that's right. That's right. Leclerc's the only one to have it. That's right. Yeah. Well, at that point, I thought, well, maybe Carlos Sainz might even take the win. But what did he end up on the podium, right? I got to go back and look at the final stats. But that was...
Yeah, he finished third.
Yeah.
Sainz was on the podium. Great job.
Ham, Max, and Sainz. That was excellent. There for a while, I thought my podium was going to come through with Lando, Ham, and Ricardo was one step away. But...
yeah, we were
grenades.
About 15 minutes off of rain for my podium to come true, but oh boy. But yeah, it was very exciting and very unexpected, and it continues this 2021 Formula One season. I mean, it has to be ranked way up there, and we've got we only have one more race between now and Austin. And so, I mean, Bob, don't you agree? This season has been phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. And not just because Hamilton has a challenger in Verstappen, but we're also seeing terrific battles further back. I mean, Norris and Ricardo and Leclerc and Sainz, and, that battle for third, fourth, fifth place in the Drivers' Championship and the all-important Constructors' Championship, since, as we've said before, that's the only championship that pays prize money. The drivers get nothing but a warm handshake and a trophy. So it's really important to the teams that they get every point they can, because it can be worth tens of millions of dollars to them when the season's over. And that midfield battle is terrific right now. Alpine's in the mix as well with Ocon and Alonso. It's just been great fun to watch.
Right before you said that, I just brought up the constructor standings, and I hit refresh. They were at 18. Mercedes had an 18-point lead going into today, and now they're at 33 points in the Constructors' Championship. So, I mean, it's still anybody's race at this point. But, yeah, I don't like giving Mercedes any sort of lead at this point because they are Mercedes. I know it for the year it's been the Red Bull car. Max has been the fastest driver for most of this year. And but hey, guys, let's not forget, this is the first time in history that that a driver has won 100 races, and Lewis Hamilton achieved that today. So, well, guys, let's go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue to break down the Formula One Russian Grand Prix at Sochi. You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM. Back after these messages. All right, welcome to the show, Gearheads. The Formula One Russian Grand Prix at Sochi turned out to be a fantastic race. Lots of everything, including a dramatic finish in the rain. Lewis Hamilton winning his 100th career victory. First time in Formula One history. Really an epic win. If you want to join the show, give us a call, 512-643-5483, 512-643-LIVE. Give us a call and tell us what you thought of the race today. And sometime during the show today, we're going to give away tickets to the Formula One United States Grand Prix right here in Austin, Texas. All right. Hey, Bob Varsha, you want to give us, why don't we start at the top and work our way down and talk about everybody's race today, because there was plenty to talk about besides Lewis Hamilton's win.
Oh, absolutely. But congratulations to Lewis on the 100th. We talked about Max Verstappen finishing second from last. Great job for him. Again, the rain played a big factor in that. Carlos Sainz, third for Ferrari, arguably the slower Ferrari on this occasion. Daniel Ricciardo picked up a spot, which was great for him and for the McLaren team. Valtteri Bottas, which is weird. Early in the race, he had the chance to keep Verstappen behind him back there outside of the points.
Yeah.
And a lot of people speculated that that may be why Mercedes chose to change his engine and put him at the back so that he would be near Verstappen and could hold him up. That lasted for an eye blink before Verstappen just raced on by him. So I wonder if the team is having a chat about that. If Bottas hadn't finished fifth, it might be a tougher situation in the briefing room. Fernando Alonso with the Alpine lost a spot, but still a decent drive for him as they continue to accumulate points in that midfield battle. In seventh place, Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah, baby.
Kimi. Last Russian Grand Prix for Kimi. Probably a little bit sad that in a couple of years they're going to be as close to a finished Grand Prix as you can get at the new Russian track near St. Petersburg. But great to see Kimi bring Alfa through to a points finish. Then Lando, we'll see if he stays in eighth place with that point for the fast lap in the race, since he violated the pit entry line late when he came in to get his intermediates.
He'll almost certainly get a penalty, right, Bob? Almost without.
I would think so, yeah. He'll be penalized for that. Then Perez, who, I said needed a big race for Red Bull if Verstappen, his teammate, weren't able to come through. Turned out Verstappen did come through. And Perez actually had a good race going. He was at a potential podium position for a while, but then he got caught out by the conditions. In 10th place, filling out the points positions, George Russell. Frankly, I expected more. I picked him for a podium today, but it was a false dawn, I guess. And there may be, engine changes coming for the Williams drivers. 11th place, Lance Stroll. 12th, Sebastian Vettel. What happened between the Aston Martin teammates? There on whatever lap it was late in the race? They collided not once, but twice.
Yeah, I saw that
corner.
You could understand, okay, you're hard racing, you hit once. Well, what's up with hitting twice? I mean, come on, guys. Team manager's not happy.
I do not know. And then, of course, Stroll put it in the barrier as well, but managed to get an 11th place finish out of it for now. 13th place, Pierre Gasly. I thought he was going to have something for everybody today after the problems in qualifying. But again, a false dawn. He just didn't seem to be able to come through. Esteban Ocon, another guy we might have expected more out of in the rain. He's raced at the track before. He kind of knew what was going on. Again, maybe another team problem. He didn't get onto the intermediate tires at the right moment. 15th, Charles Leclerc. That's curious. He had the new uprated Ferrari engine, but just couldn't seem to deal with the racetrack and the conditions the way his teammate Carlos Sainz did. So Leclerc winds up in 15th place, although there was a great battle going on all race long for him with some of the other midfield guys. Antonio Giovinazzi, who blotted his cook in qualifying, but comes home to finish 16th. Then Yuki Tsunoda in the second, AlphaTauri in 17th. Nikita Mazepin in front of his home crowd in 18th place in the first of the Haas cars. And then Nicholas Latifi and Mick Schumacher, who did not finish. And I suspect Latifi's was to save his engine for the next race. Don't know what Schumacher's problems was, but he came in mid-race. We saw him get out of the car and, high five all of the mechanics. So I'm not sure what that was all about. But anyway, that's your 20 finishers at the Russian Grand Prix.
Yeah, and I heard him say over the radio that Mick Schumacher's engine was decaying. So I don't know exactly what that power unit was decaying. So I don't know what that meant, but
performance decaying.
That shows you what's happening here. The guys, they're stretching the life of these engines to avoid taking a replacement, a fourth engine that incurs a penalty. Of course, with the Haas Ferrari, if you're at the back, you're at the back. Where are they going to put you if you change your engine?
Yeah. And like you said about Williams, that's interesting that they could have done that just now. They could have done that just for that exact reason. So I was just looking at some of the we got a caller. I'm going to go to them in just a moment. I'll just look at some of the tweets at us. Is Lando, Paul Bryan says, is Lando Norris driver of the day for staying up front, or was it Verstappen from going from 20th, dead last, to P2? That's a very good argument.
Oh, man. Yeah, really skilled both fronts and lots of challenges all the way through. Lando had it out front for the entire event, but that was oh man, I don't know. I'm going to lean towards Max though, just because the challenge coming from the back all the way up and the whole team race, the strategy around the rain.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our caller. I think this is a regular, if I'm not mistaken. We got a Larry in Sioux Falls. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome. Last time I talked to you guys, I was out in Telluride and go back and forth between the two places. I did not expect such a white-knuckle race as we had today.
It was fantastic, wasn't it?
Oh, what a race. But the congratulations to Lewis. You can't take anything away from 100 victories. But Lando needs to get sat down, man. The experience overcame the exuberance of youth. When they told him to pit. No, I got to win this thing. He cost his team 13, 14 points.
Yeah,
that's huge money. And Stroll better be glad that his dad's fronting the cash for that team.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Anybody else with you know what I'm saying. Worst thing you can do. But anyway, hey, I'm here in South Dakota, and I'm free to go to Austin if you guys want to send some tickets this way.
Well, Larry, you're the first one to call, and we're going to get your tickets. Are you on the road right now, or?
No, my family's been in this area since 1860, and and I come back and forth between here and there, and here doing some things with Mom before it gets winter, and then back to Telluride. Man, got to get on those slopes.
Well, you need to come on down to Austin because we got a pair of tickets with your name on them, and you don't have to worry about it being cold. I think the worst case scenario is it's cool when you get down here. So
might be a little damp. Snowfall that day.
Thanks so much, guys. I'll be there with bells on.
There you go. Snowfall that day will be near zero.
Hey, don't say we had it this year. Well, Larry, thanks for calling, buddy, and stay on the line, and congratulations on those tickets.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Love the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's surprising. You don't find too many families who'd moved to South Dakota to avoid the Civil War, but there it is.
Yeah, 1860s.
And I need to make a correction. I just looked. I wrote down my finish order right there at the end, and now that I look at the official on the F1 site, they have reversed the positions of Norris and Raikkonen. So Norris goes to 7th and Raikkonen to 8th.
Okay.
Not sure what it is, but maybe I was just premature.
Yeah, well, and like you say, it's probably not the permanent position anyway. So,
yeah, could be.
But yeah, if anybody else wants to give us a call, we'd love to hear your opinion. 512-643-5483. But just speaking of that running order that you just ran down a couple of minutes ago, you said you were disappointed in George Russell, and he ended up finishing 10th? Was it?
Yeah.
So I mean. Yes, he had fantastic qualifying, qualified third. but holding on to some points. It is the Williams car. What's that, Bob?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And keep in mind, Russell's great qualifying was partly due to the weather conditions.
Yeah.
Remember, it was wet track, drying toward the end. He was one of the guys who went to the red soft tire. Well, they all did basically, but
he was one of the first.
He had a very, let's call it a fortunate qualifying. So maybe this race finish in the points in 10th place is a better indication of where the Williams team is right now. They're not going to finish last in the championship, it appears, for the first time in 3 years. So well, I'm not blaming George Russell for that. He probably did the best with what he had, and 10th is not a bad finish for Williams.
Yeah, I guarantee you they'll take points anytime they can get them. Les, what did you think of Sergio Perez's his drive today? Bob touched on it. He did have the bad pit stop, the unfortunate that he couldn't avoid. But what did you think of his drive?
Oh, I thought it was excellent. This is what I've been expecting out of him once he got to Red Bull. You know, we've seen him further back in the crowd for so long, but we knew he had the skills. We knew he performs wonderfully when everything's going right. And I expected Red Bull to do it. And now they kind of kicked the dog with the pit stop the way they did. And so, heart goes out to him on that. But I feel like he did everything right.
Yeah, he was locked in that great battle behind the leaders that included we had Ricardo and Bottas, Alonso, Perez. George Russell was in that battle for a while. So, it's tough to pass around this place as we went into. Interesting to see the levels of downforce that the teams put on the cars. Some of them had very high downforce, including Charles Leclerc, I believe. Others much less. I think Verstappen probably had the lowest downforce levels of all as he tried to come from the back and did successfully. Perez had a bit more, but not full downforce in his Red Bull. And again, it was a serviceable drive. Would have been better, but in these conditions, anybody who finishes in the points deserves credit.
Yeah, and speaking of downforce, I think it was somewhat late in the race. Who was it when they were going around the corner and both cars had? I think it was Red Bull, Ferrari, maybe, but both cars had a stream of sparks coming out around the corner, not in the braking zone where we're used to seeing it.
Right. Yeah, that was a beautiful scene, and this was by far the best Sochi race I think we've seen. Yeah, a shame it's so close to ending their reign there, but great race.
Yeah. Hey, we got somebody from Corpus Christi, Texas on the line.
I got it wrong.
What?
From around here, we say Carpus.
Carpus?
Carpus Christi?
No, you just say Carpus. I'm from down that way myself.
Oh, Carpus. I got to ask the Labonte brothers about that. Jerry and Bobby.
Oh, they'll know.
I had family. We called it Corpus. We all went down there every year to go to the beach. We got Clay from Corpus. Hey, Clay, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. Long time listener, first time caller. How are you guys doing?
Well, thanks. Okay, Clay. Now own up for us. Pronounce that town you're in.
Yeah.
Say the name of it.
The town I'm a transplant. I am from the Washington, D.C. area. I moved down here about 2 months ago. So I hear people call it Corpus Christi, Corpus Crispy. So what's the running joke?
He was just saying he calls it Carpus.
When I was born down there in the area, and it was Carpus. Going over to Carpus.
All right, well, I'll do what it takes to fit in.
Good man, good man. Hey, well, thanks for calling in.
Hey, what'd you think of the race, Clay?
Great. Well, I turned on, obviously, I'm from the East Coast and moved to Central Time. So typically, I get up in the morning, Formula One starting, so I'm an hour behind. So I turned on midway through. I saw where Norris was out and Lewis was chasing him down. The end, I never thought the end of that race would turn out the way it did with Norris's team maybe making a bad call or him making a bad call and not pitting, Lewis's team making a great call, and then Verstappen going from where he did to second place. So if you turned on the race and maybe it was 10 laps to go, you thought Lewis would have ended maybe with a 10-point lead. Now it's only, I believe, 2-4. So I think that's a testament to, I think, Verstappen's skill. I think Lewis just being a consummate professional, and then Norris just being a little inexperienced.
Yeah, so you agree. We were talking about Lando Norris being the excited youth, right? You agree with the fact that that was a mistake of him making that call to stay out?
Oh, absolutely. I think he got out over his skis. I think in that situation, you need to listen to your crew. There's no I in team, so I think you need to go with the team approach and listen to the crew chief and the principal right there.
Hey, so you're in Corpus, so you're down in South Texas, and you were from
Correct.
the East Coast. Are there any like groups down there that get together and watch Formula One?
I don't think. No, I think I am a outlier in a lot of ways down here. I grew up watching NASCAR back in the '80s when Earnhardt Sr. raced, and then once he passed, I kind of lost interest in NASCAR. I used to watch Indy when you had Ray Hall and Bobby Mears, but then they had the IndyCar series and the Car series, and I think I just lost interest in that. I think Formula One has a little bit more novelty and spectacle. And it's good that the Formula One has the race in Austin, I believe, at the end of next month. I looked at tickets a couple of weeks ago. About a month ago, they were 400. Now they've gone up to like 700. So I said, the hell with it. But I would like to go to Austin at some point to or any race in the U.S. to see a Formula One race up close.
Well, I hope that it spreads to Corpus. Austin has fully embraced. It took a little time, but now Austin is full on. All in, and it's interesting that you say that about the ticket prices because they are sold out of a lot of the tickets, and the fact that there is huge demand and we don't have as many people traveling in because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So there is big demand, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, especially with Miami coming on.
Well, and this is one of those destinations that's so close to the Mexico border that we get a big Mexico population that comes in.
We used to get bigger, yeah.
Yeah, and typically their culture, if you will, is to buy on race day. They buy their tickets when they get here. Well, you're not going to have that option because there's none left.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Hey,
absolutely.
Well, Clay, we were giving out pairs of tickets, but you know what? We got one more ticket, and we're going to put your name on it.
3.5-hour drive to Austin.
That's right. You're not far. Just jump in the car. 3.5 hours.
Swing out to Snoopy's, get a bag to go, and come on.
I think it's worth it. Well, guys, what do you need from me?
You just hang on the line, and our producer's going to get everything. Thank you for being a long-time listener. We really appreciate it, and thanks for calling in this time.
Hey, appreciate your show. Continued success.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, boys, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the growth of Formula One here in the United States. I've got an interesting study that I want to read you guys. You're listening to Speed City, live from Austin, Texas, back after a quick break.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
The Speed City F1 post-race show on Sirius XM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Use the cloud to secure your team in the office, at the track, or anywhere with CrowdStrike at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. All right, gentlemen, we were talking about, before we went to the break, about the growth of Formula One in the United States. We heard this gentleman from Corpus kind of giggling a little bit about Corpus Christi, and I that's probably true down there, but all over the United States, it has been growing like crazy this year, and the success they chalk it up to lots of things, including the Netflix series, which we've talked a lot about. But I did see a really interesting study that was done that Formula One engaged a company to do this. But it was really interesting because they talked about the increase of the youth fan base, which obviously every sport, every organization has to have new blood bringing it in. And this study was done by a company over in the UK, and it's called, let's see.
Insights Family.
Yeah, Insights Family. It's something that's UK-based, so I hadn't seen it, but... And this was mostly about the UK, but what the interesting parts of this thing is that the growth was even faster than soccer, they said, amongst the youth, including which has been good, and it's 6% faster than the soccer growth, but it's also the second fastest growing sport on social media with annual growth of 36%. And now that we've had several years under Liberty Media, that's saying something now, because the first year they had huge growth because Bernie
Right.
didn't even do social media. But now they're saying 41% of children aged 3 to 18 now engage with esports, which Formula One has embraced very heavily and had huge success with during the pandemic before we went racing last year. But they've also increased the number of active children fans by almost 3 million people, 3 million children in key European markets. So it's 17% year-on-year increase in fans from 17.3 to 20 million. So it's some really big numbers that we're seeing in the growth of this sport. And we've seen it here in the United States. And with the talk of Michael Andretti buying into a team or buying a team and the growth that could bring, you get Michael Andretti and the likelihood of an American driver, that's going to be really interesting to see the growth. But I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was a really fascinating study, just talking about the growth of the youth. But a little bit more about today's race. Bob, let me go to you. Bob Varsha, we've touched on a lot of the drives, just touching on them. But anybody stand out besides the ones we've gone in depth on about today? We touched on Alonso, we touched on Raikkonen and Perez. Anybody else?
And I'm scanning the finished results to see if anybody really jumps out at me. I think we hit most of the high points. Yeah, I think Ricardo had a really good day. Particularly impressed with Sainz.
Yeah.
Norris we know about. I think he won driver of the day, as you mentioned.
What do you think about Daniel Ricciardo and last week with the win, this week with a fourth place finish? And, I in the pre-show, I was talking about the fact that Lando was still noticeably faster in qualifying. But what do you think about his confidence and where he's at right now compared to where he's been at the beginning of the season?
Well, it's really coming along. I mean, doubters might say, well, he won at Monza because Hamilton and Verstappen took each other out. But, you got to be there to capitalize on that. And we're there. The team has said it's a difficult car to drive. Lando's had experience with it, so it's only natural that he'd be slightly ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, who's a proven race winner. It looks like Ricciardo is coming to terms with the race car. And that's good news for the team. So, yeah, I think Ricciardo's doing a great job. And I think he's one of those guys, going back to your point about the growth of the sport. Now, years ago when I was doing television with the series, Bernie Ecclestone, who owned the commercial rights at the time, was asked about, why don't you reach out to the youth? What do you think of esports? What do you think of social media? He said, I have no time for that. Young people don't have any money. My sponsors are Rolex and Mercedes-Benz and, Moët and Chandon and what have you. Young people don't spend money on that. If they spend money at all, why should I bother with them? Which obviously was a bizarre position to take. And as you point out, I think Liberty Media has grabbed that youth market with both hands. They're out there on social media. You've got great young drivers in this, one of the youngest fields in Formula One history. You got guys like Hamilton out there, not only on the sports pages, but he's also there on the society pages and, the weekend editions. Run down the list. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, these guys all get on social media, and that helps. The Netflix Drive to Survive show certainly helps a lot. There's a lot of reasons why that youth market has been underserved by Formula One, and now hopefully it's all of that is changing as people begin to do how much fun and how fascinating Formula One can be.
I think Liberty Media, if they were to, and by the way, did you guys hear this rumor about? It's not a rumor. Netflix came out and the CEO or somebody said, had hindsight 2020, they would have considered buying Formula One, or would consider it if Liberty were to think about selling it. And what I was going to say is that if they end up selling it today, the fact that they did that Netflix deal was, they could say they had a successful run at it based on just that, growing the sport that much. But hey, we got a couple of callers on the line. Let's go out to South Carolina. We got Rick on the line. Hey, Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Hey, what'd you think of the race?
I thought it was awesome. I'm a truck driver, so I had to listen to it on Sirius. And I'm biting my nails just listening to it. I can imagine what the visuals look like, so I can't wait to see the highlights. And I got talking about growing the sport, I got a friend of mine who I've been trying to get into Formula One for 3 years. He's finally into it. He won't let me call him now because he's watching it he recorded it. He refuses to answer my phone calls because, it's like he's addicted now. And this is a very addicting sport. I've been watching it since Varsha. I want to say salute to you, Mr. Varsha. I started watching Formula One in 88, 89 when they used to come on ESPN2 like really, really late on tape delay. And I was watching all those guys, so I've always been a Formula One fan, but I didn't have that many friends to talk about it to, but eventually my dad and everybody started watching it, and it's like once they get a little taste of it, you can't go back. I mean, even I'm taking my family to Miami because they announced the dates this week, so we're going to Miami. I already got the Airbnb. I was in Austin in 2019. I took my girlfriend in at the time, and I went to Indy in 2007 to Lewis. It was Lewis Hamilton's second win ever when he was with McLaren. So I went to that race live, and so I'm all entrenched. And it's fun seeing me introducing it to people, and then watching them how they call me and say, "Hey, did you see the pit strategy and this?" And I'm like, wow, And I just like that more and more people are getting into it.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, hey, well, we always ask people what they're driving, but I don't really know a lot. But what kind of truck are you driving?
Right now, I have a Freightliner, Cascadia. It's like the little one-seater. Because I'm by myself. I don't need a bunch of people in it. So it's small. My personal cars, I have a 2020 Mustang GT, and I have a 830 horsepower Toyota MR2, a 93 Toyota MR2.
Whoa.
Oh, pretty scary.
Yeah.
Tell us about this MR2. Wait a minute. 830, that could be something crazy in it.
Well, I got a Honda K20 engine I swapped into it.
Wow.
Nice.
This was the closest thing I can get to an F1 car that I can.
You have a mid-engine, sub 3,000 pound, 800 horsepower MR2. That's pretty cool.
I promise you, I haven't had the guts to go all the way throttle yet because it rips your face off before I get in second gear.
Rips your face off, yeah. Well, Rick, hey, thanks, buddy. We appreciate you listening, and we appreciate you call us up and tell us about your experience with Formula One.
I'll be calling it from now on every week now that I discovered the show.
Hey, fantastic.
All right, thanks, buddy. All right, we got a couple more callers on the line, but hang tight because we need to squeeze a break in. But we got Robert and Dan, so we'll get to you guys in just a minute. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hi guys, this is Pierre Gasly, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
Has your workforce moved from the office to the home or to the garage or maybe a rented cabin with open Wi-Fi? If your company has expanded outside the office and moved all your applications to the cloud, there's a whole world of threats you have to worry about, including ransomware. CrowdStrike revolutionized security by harnessing the speed and power of the cloud to identify and stop the most advanced cyber attacks, even those that have never been seen before. So now you can work securely anywhere. Try CrowdStrike Falcon free today and protect your data and your employees anywhere. Welcome to Anywhere. CrowdStrike, we stop breaches. Access the CrowdStrike Falcon platform free at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. All right, when we went to break, we said we had a couple callers we would get to, and we're going to go straight to them. We're going to go first to Robert in Bollinger, Texas. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Hey, doing good. Listening to your broadcast here on a beautiful Sunday.
Well, what'd you think of the race today?
Well, I'm also on the road on the job, and I was listening to on the radio on the Sirius, and it was exciting. I mean, edge of your seat. The broadcast is real good, and I'm just, it was heartbreaking for Norris there to make the wrong call. But like you guys were talking about earlier, youthful exuberance, and but I'm glad to see that McLaren has upped their game this year. Instead of being mid-pack, they're leading the pack, or trying to, anyways.
Well, I love the fact that what you said about listening to sports on the radio. Done it all my life at times, and there is something different about listening to a sport on the radio versus watching it. It's a very different experience, and one that, it's funny, I can say that I enjoy it just as much as watching it sometimes, and I don't know why that is. I can't really explain it. Obviously, you've got to have good folks on the mics, but it is.
That can let you visualize it in your mind.
Yeah, paint that picture in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you headed? You said you're in Bollinger. Where are you headed from and to?
Well, I'm at work. I'm in a different location than where I live.
Okay, I thought you were like truck driving.
No, I don't. I'm in transportation, but I'm not in truck driving. Anyways, and I'm in the old school, I guess, because I remember back in the 70s and 80s, they used to, and that's what piqued my interest in Formula One way back when I was a kid, that they would broadcast there on Memorial Day at
Charlotte?
At Monaco.
Monaco, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they would do that. It was on broadcast TV, and they would show it, I don't know, in the can't remember if it was in the mornings before the Indy 500 or what. I can't recall exactly, but they had it on broadcast TV.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if it was ABC or CBS. It was just like the one time a year that you actually got to see it on the television back then.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that, because that was one of the first ones I got to see. Like I said, we were talking about our guy from Corpus Christi earlier. That was one of the first races I watched on TV was Monaco, as far as Formula One. And he's right. He goes, and it's a really, really cool environment there. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, if anybody missed it. But when I was there in Monaco for the F1 race, apparently the local tradition for the traveling media is to go to the Stars and Bars sports bar, Stars and Stripes sports bar.
Something like that, yeah.
There in the marina. Right. And they show the Indy 500 there. And it's a lot of recognizable faces and names that go to that bar to watch the Indy 500 together.
Yeah,
it helps that it's right next to the paddock where all the Formula One teams are parked.
Exactly. Yeah. That's next to.
When you're
we got a couple of more callers. We got a new one, but let's go to Robert. Thanks for calling, buddy. We appreciate it. We appreciate you listening. Let's go to Dan. Looks like he is in the car. Looks like he's on the way to DC. First off, Dan, thanks for calling. But second off, what are you driving on the way to DC?
I am driving an Infiniti G37 Coupe, and
there you
I
go.
can tell you after watching the race, it's a dangerous combination. I am.
Do you have rain tires on?
I do. I have the summer tires still on. I used to change over snow when I lived in Boston. Now that I live in D.C., I keep the summer tires on year round, which is awesome. Means I can make the trip in about 6 hours, which is fantastic. Hey, guys, I want to thank you for the broadcast because I actually stayed in my hotel so I could watch the end of the race. And then I had to talk to somebody, found you guys out there. I'm going to do everything I can to blow you guys up on Facebook and Twitter. You guys are running a great show.
Oh, well,
I want to talk about the thing that nobody's saying. Bottas is letting Mercedes down. Okay, you think about the way Alonso fought off Hamilton, was it 4 races ago, so that Norris could get the win. He is not Norris, Alpine would come to me anyway.
Ricardo won last week, yeah.
But Alonso's teammates,
Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, right. When Ocon won, because Alonso held off Hamilton for like 8 laps. Bottas, could have done that. For Verstappen to come all the way from 20 to second, okay, you know what? He's an amazing racer. I'm glad to see that. Bottas waved him past. If he had held him up for like 5 or 6 laps, who knows, especially with the way the race ended. But, you know, Bottas, he's got his papers. He's like, yeah, see you guys. Thanks. I'm going to have a nice Sunday drive every day that I'm out here now. What did he finish, 15th? And it was just astonishingly bad.
We'll take a look.
So I just figured I thought that. And, fifth, he finished?
Yeah, he was way down there, but he ended up finishing 5th, yeah.
And all the chaos at the end, he moved right up.
Right, exactly, because he came in with Mercedes and they got their tires on. The last thing I want to say is that, you know, that is an unbelievable team. And the way they work back and forth together. And, you know, Hamilton, like the first time they called him in for the reins, he's like, no. But then the second time he came in, you know, Norris, they don't have that relationship yet. And so he's like, no, and they let him stay out. Plus, you're talking about the difference between a 20-year-old and a 37-year-old. But honestly, it was one of the most enjoyable races I ever seen, and I am grateful to you guys for your broadcast for letting me talk about it a little bit.
Well, Dan, thank you, because I love that we have that role, right? When you get through with an exciting race, you want to talk about it with somebody. You want to hear people talking about it. And the coverage in the United States on television, you know, like after qualifying is the worst to me, because they literally, when the syllable rolls off the tongue of the person who finished 3rd in qualifying, they cut the coverage and go to basket weaving, or
I take it you're not a fan of
beanbag
cornhole.
Cornhole, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I do love that, Dan. Thank you for calling. We really appreciate it. And I do love the fact that we have a spot for people to get excited about. You know, when their sport is just finishing up, they can call and talk. And we do have another caller on the line. We've got a gentleman from Baton Rouge. We have Edgar. Hey, Edgar, how are you?
All right. How are you guys today?
Doing good.
Doing
you have
great.
A question about the race coming up here in Austin?
Yeah, you know, my wife and I, it's been a few years since we've gone, and we came over before, and that we had to park out. It was quite challenging. We didn't stay downtown, but you know, I guess they're doing the shuttle now, and looks like you don't really park at the track, or what's the?
You can.
You know,
you can actually park. You can park at the track. I'll tell you, Coda's got it figured out now. I'll tell you that for sure. They've got multiple shuttles running from different locations. They've even got a shuttle running from Bastrop. Do you see that, Les? So they got shuttles running from the east, from the west, from Austin. They've got. They do have lots of parking. They've got it. You know, it's been 10 years now, so we got it. We got it down now. We got it figured out. And as far as getting in and out, it's still a little time consuming, because you've got 150,000 people or 120,000 people anyway on Sunday, and but yeah. So when did you? What year did you come?
Oh, 13, 14, maybe 2013 or so.
Yeah.
And you know, I said we parked out in the fields, which wasn't bad, but it took us more time to leave the track than we spent at the track. You know, waiting in line, catching all those shuttles, and you know, to get back to actually the parking lot at the time. It wasn't back to a hotel. So, you know, I'm hoping it's better and sounds like it is.
Oh, it is absolutely better. It's there was a couple of years there in that era where there was some people, some of those back parking lots. Some of the people in some parking lots were in and out in no time, but some of those back parking lots, they had trouble, but it's definitely better. And actually, we pay them to do that, so you guys would be stuck in the car listening on the radio for our post-race.
Okay.
Well, that's racing. Racing's the only sport where you do your tailgating after the event as opposed to before.
Yeah, I guess
well
so.
just
I guess so. Well, I was on the phone earlier, and I have a friend. We were talking about history, and I'm an engineer, and I have a friend that's an engineer, and we started watching F1. I'll say back in the 80s, and he lives in Minneapolis now, and sometimes we call each other during the race, but, you know, I don't want to know what's happening if he's not watching, and I don't want to tell him what's happening if he's not watching. But today he had a return. He had to return to a hardware store. They were going to charge him extra time for the rental. So I'm texting him for the last three laps of the race. Call me, box, and we're both L. Hamilton fans, and he's not responding. So he finally calls me after he leaves the store. Tell me what happened. So I have to give him blow by blow calls. And as I'm talking to him, my wife is with her mother today. I'm at home by myself this morning. So she's texting me too. How did Verstappen get second? What a race, So my wife is gone, doing nothing about racing, and to waking me up in the morning. How come you didn't tell me qualifying was on? So the sport is really growing. I'm actually a professor, and I teach engineering, and I bring in F1 talks with my class, in particular the freshman students. And I try, I tell them how important is a half of a second. So, that's nothing. Okay, you need to watch this. This is very critical, and the millions of dollars have been spent in this sport here has given these people an extra half of a second. I get some students that are interested, and some of them just kind of scratch their heads and just look. But I'm doing my best to increase the interest in the sport. And I really enjoy you guys' show, and I share your podcast with others to try to get others to listen also.
Well, thank you, sir. You are doing your part.
We appreciate it. Which school do you teach at?
I teach at Southern University here. It's HBCU here in Baton Rouge, so I teach there and been there quite a bit. We actually have started a little Formula SAE team with
nice.
Building. They call it a Formula One car, but I have to correct them. No, this is not a Formula One.
Hey, well,
car.
We've had SAE come to the Circuit of the Americas and into the area. So by
University
all means,
of Texas and
head
A&M,
out this
both
direction. Give us a holler. I bet he's going to Drago's for lunch today in Baton Rouge.
Maybe. All right. So you've been.
Yep. I used to be a frequent Tulane over there, so in New Orleans.
Okay.
So know the neighborhood.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. But I heard the guy call earlier about the MR2, and I worked for General Motors for a bit too, and we had a little Fiero there, and they had twin turbocharged that thing, and he needs to be careful because General Motors dropped it right away. I think I recall that a wife had the car out once, and it became airborne. Oh. And they we're gonna get away from this. It was a little too strong for that, too much power for that little chassis.
Both of those cars begged for more horsepower, though. Everybody in the Fieros, they were dropping the 3800 in there and all sorts of different engine mods to that. So, well, Edgar, thank you so much. I love hearing your Baton Rouge accent, and we really appreciate you calling, and we appreciate you spreading the word about us and our sport.
All right, this is the first time caller for any talk show, and I'm going to try to make this not my first time to call you guys too.
Thanks, Edgar. We'll watch for you.
Take care.
All right, thank you, guys. Take care. Have a good day.
All right, thanks. All right, let's get our last break in. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Gene Haas, and this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
All right, welcome back to the show. We were talking during the break, and we are going to be doing a Motogp broadcast as well. So go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com. Find all the details of that.
Don't act surprised. We do it anyway. You just don't get to hear it here.
That's right.
A lot of times. So.
But hey, Lewis Hamilton, first Formula One driver in history to score 100 Grand Prix victories. But you got a list that you want to share with us.
Let's put this in perspective. I mean, 100 is always a great number for just about anything you want.
Nice milestone.
Yeah, right? Unless you're golfing. But anyway, we're not.
Hey, that's my golf score. I'm happy to hit that.
So, you might wonder, how does that compare to others? So let's run through that. Lewis at 100. Next up, Michael Schumacher at 91. And it took quite a while for him to get to that. I mean, consider he raced 91 to 2006, came back 2010 through 2012. So quite a span there to make that happen. Not totally unimpressive by any means. Sebastian Vettel at 53. So there you go. We've got Vettel at 53.
That's huge.
And Prost at 51. Ayrton Senna at 41. But think of the gap. Lewis to the next modern F1 driver is Sebastian Vettel, and that's 47 races difference.
Yeah.
And it's astounding. He is, I can't stand the phrase on another level, but that's what it is.
Bob, you got to call a lot of those races with a lot of those drivers.
Yeah.
You know,
I did. I remember once being in Germany, and which is always an interesting event when Michael Schumacher was in the field. And we found a piece of videotape of a guy who had all of Michael Schumacher's victories, which at that point, must have been getting at least over 80, closing on 90. And he had them tattooed on his back, believe it or not, from top to bottom.
Oh my gosh.
It was totally bizarre. But yeah, I mean, Lewis has totally redefined a success in Formula One, as Michael Schumacher did before him, as Senna certainly did. When you think about the careers that some guys had, I mean, 3-time world champion Jackie Stewart raced 99 times. 99 is a drop on the bucket. Mika Hakkinen, who won 2 world championships, went more than 99 races before he won his first one. So, it's a totally different game now than it was just a couple of decades ago.
Already.
And what Lewis and Mercedes have done is really remarkable.
Prince, Lewis's 100, Jackie Stewart, who we all know, 27 wins.
Mhm.
And Mika Hakkinen is 16th on the roster with 20 wins. And neither one of those are anybody to sneeze at. Another of the modern drivers, current drivers, Kimi, is 15th with 21. And so, this is absolutely no small feat. We mentioned Fernando Alonso earlier, 32 for him. He's 6th in ranking currently on this. That to me is puts it in perspective of who we've got there, who are some of the other names.
Yeah.
Nigel Mansell was just a rock star. I remember through the 80s and early 90s with 31.
Well, and think about it. Let's stop with Alonso there for a second,
Yes.
because Bob, you were talking, I think in the pre-show, just how amazing Alonso is as a driver. But look at just the luck of the draw, of the timing of what seats are available when and where you end up.
Right.
Is such a massive impact on the number of wins. Think about where Alonso could have been had the cards fallen in a different direction. He could easily be where Lewis Hamilton is now.
That's always been a part of Alonso's legacy. He was one of those rare, super talented drivers who just couldn't get the decision right about which car to get in. I mean, we've talked about it before. Every driver, as a part of his responsibility to himself and his success, needs to get into the best car he can. I mean, Juan Manuel Fangio won 5 championships for 4 different brands. And so, anybody who got mad because Lewis Hamilton left McLaren and went to Mercedes, this is what drivers have to do. Look at Daniel Ricciardo jumping from team to team, looking for that sweet spot, a car that he can win with weekend in and weekend out. But even by that standard, what Lewis and Mercedes have done is incredible. It really is.
Juan Manuel Fangio is ranked 11 with 24 wins in his span from 1950 to 58. That's pretty sizable.
Yeah.
There. And,
Totally different era. Hey, let's talk about speaking of Michael Schumacher, you mentioned him on the list. Talk about the movie, the Netflix, I was about to say documentary. I guess that's technically what it was. We've all seen it now. And Les, you talked about it last week, but my impressions were, I was not a huge Formula One fan early on, and kind of started watching it and not in earnest when Schumacher was on his waning of his career on the first, before he went to Mercedes. And I enjoyed the movie. It was absolutely worth watching, but it wasn't quite what I expected. And Bob, we were talking about it yesterday. You had kind of a similar impression.
Yeah, I was glad to see all the video that reminded us of the good times. But in terms of a documentary, I think it left a lot tired. I call it a love letter from Michael's family to his fans. All of the high points, none of the low points, really. Michael was ruthless, simply put. We hear talk all the time about which driver should have left a car width's room for the other driver in the corner, as recently as Monza. Verstappen, Hamilton, who should have left who room? The reason the rules require that you leave room, it's the Michael Schumacher rule, because in his day, Michael would simply cut across you. He would shut the door. He would drive you off the road. He's not alone in that. Ayrton Senna was much the same way. The rarity are the drivers like Alain Prost, who would never risk that much. Niki Lauda would not risk that much. It's a matter of perspective, and sometimes the rules makers have to step in. And in the case of Michael, who is one of the all-time greats, the rules makers had to step in for everybody's safety, but that wasn't covered. And I thought even his accident that left him in the persistent vegetative state, as they say, that he is after a knock on the head while skiing, they didn't talk about that. They just showed a ski slope, and we heard his wife Corinna talking about how Michael loved skiing and being with the family and all that. And now that he's hurt, we're gonna, keep him going and hope to get him fixed. I mean, I thought, what? Don't you tell people what happened?
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the biggest surprise to me, is that they completely ignored the accident. They showed some footage of skiing, and so if you knew the story, but that was really surprising that they didn't even say and didn't talk about Michael's condition. That was the other big thing. Is I thought they would at least say something about his condition. I mean, barely. She said something like, "He's with us," but that's about it. They didn't really talk about it, which it's fine. I understand the privacy, but we all know that it's in not a good place right now. But well, guys, we are just about out of time, and we wanted to talk about the 2022 season, but we're out of time on that. But we got the Turkey race coming up in 2 weeks. Bob, give us the 15, 20-second version of what to expect there.
Oh, great racetrack. I don't know why Turkey's not on the schedule year after year. I'm sure it has something to do with money, but a lot of elevation change, a lot of interesting corners, and a really interesting part of the world. It should be another great race.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And then 2 weeks after that, here in Austin, looking forward to that. Yeah.
Hey, stay tuned, because there are some things coming up, but obviously considerate of the pandemic and things. We'll spread the love and let you know the cool places to be as those pop up.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a set protocol, the usual stuff. Show your vaccination card, show your negative test, and bring a mask. Probably won't need it all the time, but well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all the callers. That was really fun. Had some fun callers today. We really appreciate it. Go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com. Check us out. Follow us on social media, and we'll talk to you next Sunday.
Ciao, y'all.
Bye.